Let's go ahead, and there's a few things that jump out at me. So the first thing that jumps out at me is that the axes are really crowded. And so for me to fix the axis, I have to come here to this axis options. And the first thing that I notice is that while it's okay that our axes are starting at 0 and going to 450,000, having the units be every 50,000 is just too much. And so I'm going to change that to 100,000. And I'm going to press enter, and now things look much better. The other thing that I can change is the location of the axis, okay? And so if I go to labels, it's asking us, where do you want kind of the label for the axis to be? And so if I say I want it to be high, it's going to move this labels up here. Whereas if I say, you know, in this context, low, it's going to bring it back as the same as next to axis. And if I say none, it's going to have no axis. So let's keep it at high. Okay, a couple other things that I want to do. I really don't like this yellow after all, and so when I come to the plot area, I'm going to click on the fill, and I'm going to say that I actually want no fill and I want no border. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add data labels, and so I'm going to say add not a data table but the data label, which is somewhat helpful here for me to see what data is showing. I want you to see, okay, that if I were to change this, the data to just general, that would also be reflected on how the data is displayed in the chart. And really what I want is I want currency with no decimals. The next thing I want to do is sort my bar chart to have the category with the highest sales at the top. And so this is an idiosyncratic thing of Excel. And so if I take my data and I sort it, okay, so let me go to data, and if I say I want to sort, if I tell it I want to sort by sales from largest to smallest, watch what happens. In the table, I'm going to have largest to smallest, but in the data, in the chart, it's going to be kind of the reverse. And so because I want the data to have the largest bar on the top, I actually have to sort the data from smallest to largest. We can add more labels here to the data labels. And so if I click over here, I can come to the format the data labels, or it appears here. And there's a few things that I can do. I can add something like the category name, which doesn't really make sense in this instance, but sometimes you might have additional information that you want to add. The other thing that we can do is we can position the labels at different places. So if I say center, they're going to be positioned here. So this looks a little weird because the bars are so narrow. And so if I want to change the width of the bars, I'm going to click on the bars, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to change the gap width. And I just kind of play this by ear. So let's try with 150%. Things look a little better. If I make 125 or even 100, I'm basically reducing the gap, and now this is more fitting. So let's try 75%. And so now, as you can see, this is much better. I can also change the format of the labels. I can select them, and I can come to the Home tab, and I can say I'd like to make these white, okay? And if I want to make the bars even closer together, I can just play here and then increase their size. And now this looks much better for me. So there are many things that you can do with the formatting here, okay? And you should actually spend some time to play with these different options, okay, with what it is that you want to show. One more thing that I want to talk about is the title. So Excel tries to pick a title from your data. Okay, and so if I were to change this to 2024, this would automatically update, which is nice. We can also just add our own title here. So we can just say sales data from, categories in 2023. And now we have a new title, okay? Additionally, I think what is even nicer is that you can actually tie a title to a cell. And so the way that we do this is that we double click, we select the entire, okay, and then immediately we come to the formula bar we press equals, and then we click on a cell that has the title that we want, and then we press enter. And now notice that this title is now, they're linked. And so if I were to put -- 2023 here, I would have this updating here. I cannot make changes up here, okay? It only takes one cell. So whatever it is that you want to be on the title, you have to put it in the cell in B3 first. The last thing I want to talk about here is the idea of moving charts. So this chart looks great, but maybe I want to print it in a separate report. And so what I can do here is I can right click on the chart on the outside, not in the chart like in the plot area, but in the chart area. And I can right click and I can say I want to move the chart, okay? And now I can move it. If I have different sheets, I can move it to different sheets, or I can put it in its own sheet called Sales Data 2023. And now it appears here. Notice that once you move it to its own sheet, you might have to do some adjustment. You might have to say, you know, actually, or this is not big enough. And so if you know you're going to definitely have the chart by itself, it might be better to move it early on. Okay. On the other hand, if you decide you want to kind of move it back, you can do the same thing. You click on the chart area and you say move, and now we're going to move it back as an object in Chart Basics and say okay, and now it appears here. Notice that the format changes that I made are now visible here, and so I would have to go back and kind of, you know, make these changes so that it looks okay on this end.